Hello everyone, I hope you're doing okay. My name is Lucille and I've recently moved from France to Canada. Today I'm bringing you my November reading journal update as well as the setup for my new reading journal. And first in this video I'm going to unbox my new journal and I'm very excited because I've never had such a pretty journal before and I had been looking for one for months because I had some very specific criteria. I wanted a cloth-bound notebook because it's everything you see in reading journal videos and they look so nice for a reading journal. I also wanted blank pages, and at the moment having dot grid pages is all the rage and it's very hard to find blank pages with a nice cloth-bound hardcover, so this was getting a bit difficult. But then I discovered the brand Hemlock and Oak, which is a Canadian brand out of British Columbia, and this was such a nice surprise because now I live in British Columbia and I love buying local, so that was very nice. And I just loved the unboxing, having a pretty box for my journal, and as you can see from my finger movements, I was very excited. Now that I've unboxed my journal, I want to do a very quick flip through of my previous journal to show you what I want to take from that journal to the new one. Obviously, I want to do a cover page, but way less busy than this one. If you haven't watched it, I did at the beginning of the year a makeover of this reading journal because I wanted to transform it. And I had to do a lot of collage on this page to hide stuff. Ended up being too busy for my liking. I like it in theory, but not in my own journal. So what I want to do in the new journal is something much simple, much more streamlined. I don't have anything really to change in the review section of the book. I'm just very excited to not have any of the prompts. I also will keep the order of the journal as it is in this long-term journal. It was a reading journal that was already set up with reviews at the beginning and some annex at the end with some tabs and some index, and this was my second long-term journal, and I just got used to having the annex at the end and just the reviews in the beginning. The wrap-up for the years, I added them at the end because I didn't do them as time went on. I just did them this year. But I think it would be nice to have my wrap-up for 2024 after my reviews, to have a separation before 2025. And as for my reading challenge, Reading the World, Lire le Monde, I have a very exciting project about that will be in a new video in a few weeks. Then I had those covers that were the books I read in 2024, and I had to do it because I made a mistake when I made the cover page for the index. I left some blank pages before the index and I had to find something to put on those pages. I have enjoyed putting down those covers, but I'm not sure I'm going to redo it because it's very busy with all the covers. My favorite bit of the journal is this index. I just love writing the title of the book after I finish the review. The only thing I'm going to change is that, as you can see, there are 2 pages per letters, and this is my second journal, and before that, in my first journal, I would only use 1 page per review, not 2, and even with more reviews in a book than that, I never ended up using the second page, and I don't want to waste pages like that. I also want to have a little pocket at the end because this is very handy when you have covers that were printed but not used yet. Recording that voiceover in the beginning of the afternoon, and here are the sunset at like 3-4 p.m. So I really want to do it before I go outside and do some snowshoeing because it's been snowing for 24 hours and we had snow before. It had snowed for 24 hours before, but now it's all white and pretty again and I'm so excited to go snowshoeing. So I'm trying to not speed through that recording, but it's very hard. Okay, so for the cover page I hesitated between a lot of die cut stickers I had, but in the end I settled for the sticker sheet from Marigona Suli. It's the Plantwitch sticker sheet, and as I'm talking it doesn't seem to be available on her shop anymore, and I'm so sad. I should have bought 2 because I love the colors, I love the illustration, and I thought I would use a little label to put the title of the journal on it, Journal de Lecture, Reading Journal, number 3. But I thought it was a bit too busy, so I just ended up having the sticker and my title with my label maker. Then I wanted to add the date I started the book, that is to say the date I did my first review. I'm also a tad disappointed that the end papers in that journal is so thin compared to the paper in the rest of the journal. The pages for the reviews are 160 grams, but this is much thinner and it's not very exciting, right? Then I wanted to set up my annex, and I'm starting with the index because I had to know how many pages I needed for the index. What you don't see is that off camera I have my previous reading journal and I'm flipping it through to see how many pages I used for certain things, so I don't forget stuff. Then I wanted to do a cover page for 2024, for the rest of 2024. What I didn't include in the video, otherwise it would be 15-minute long video. It takes so much time to edit and I didn't want to do that to myself, is that it's the third time I'm doing that cover. You might have seen it briefly on the right. There was some paper I had removed from the page because I had to remove a lot of stuff I had tucked down, and then I had to sand the page lightly to remove all the bulk. And anyway, at that point I was being cautious, so I put down that scrapbook paper, but I did not glue it down. I used some masking tape to just have it down, but in a way that I could remove it if I changed my mind. And I did the same for the cover for the index, and I used the same paper because I thought it was very pretty, and the botanical pattern made it so that I didn't need to add anything really. It was all decorated and I just wanted to have some kind of unity in the journal. And at that point the index cover had been on for a few days and I decided I really liked it, so I permanently glued it down with my glue tape. But if I really want to remove it, I still can. It's just going to be a pain. Now, for some reason, I did not film when I was setting up the index. I cut down those tabs as I've seen done in many reading journal videos. But then when I wrote down the letters on the tabs, I didn't like how it looked. I had done the headers for each page with my label maker, but I didn't want and I could not have it on the tabs because I couldn't find a way to do the letters vertically. So I just used a pen and I didn't like how it looked. So I used some of that craft tape and I cut down some little tabs and put them on the letters, which I much prefer. What I've learned from doing junk journal is that you can always change what you've done. You can cover stuff up, you can remove stuff, and it's fine if it's not perfect in the end. And case in point, when you make a mistake, it's easy to change it up because I realized I had made a mistake writing down the letters. So it was easy enough to remove the label and to cut down a new one because apparently at this time of day, which was the night, my brain was not cooperating with the alphabet. So the moral of the story is don't do reading journal setup at 1 in the morning. As I was adding those tabs, it felt that that blank page on the left was a little too blank, so I decided to add that pink paper that goes with the botanical setup. I usually use that pink scrapbook paper for my picture album because I think it looks very nice under a picture. It's just very soothing. I might add an illustration on that background later, but not now. Before I start my reviews, I have to include that clip of finishing my cover page for autumn, which was September and October in my previous journal. It should have been in my previous reading journal video, but I forgot to include it when I was editing the video, and as I ended up really liking how that cover page looks like, I just really wanted to have it in this video because I was talking about in the previous video how I didn't really know what to include on that page, and I thought, okay, I might just try what I see in a lot of reading journal videos to see if I like it, and if I don't, I won't end up doing it again in another cover page. What I did was printing very small versions of the covers of the books I reviewed. Then I printed two very small statistics stuff. I have a pie chart and I don't know what it's called in English on the right. I didn't really know what to track as for statistics because I like statistics, but at the end of the year, I decided to track the genre of the books I've read and the format, as well as counting how many pages I read and how many books were from the library. That's basically all of them, and I think that the statistics look very, very cute. Now for my first review in my new reading journal. I was so excited to start having reviews in that journal, and I was so scared that I would mess it up, but luckily when I was setting up my cover page, I've told you that I messed it up and I had to redo the cover 3 times, and I had a bumpy surface, and the journal not being perfect anymore made it feel much more, I felt much more free to just do my best to do the reviews and not try to be perfect. The first book I'm doing is The Serpent in Heaven by Charlene Harris. It's the 4th volume of the Ganiro series. In my previous reading journal update video, I did the first volume of that series, and I didn't do reviews for volume 2 and 3 because I kept pushing it back, didn't want to mess up my new journal, and then when I was reading the 4th one, I didn't really know what I wanted to say about volume 2 and 3, so I didn't end up doing them. And I wanted to continue with my resolution of having very simple and streamlined reviews. So I printed some pages of the botanical garden in Los Angeles, I think, because that's where this book is set. And because there was so much green and yellow, I wanted to use that green for the title. I'm using my favorite color of the Crayola Super Tip to do the title, and I'm using the same font I use in the review for the first volume because it's a very simple font to use, but at the same time I feel that it's interesting enough that you don't feel you're missing anything. Because I had that botanical theme, I added bits and pieces of botanical stickers I had left over from other reviews. The book is not botanically themed, right? But I didn't know what to theme it with. It's basically about a school for magic, but I didn't want to go the route of having a lot of magic stickers and sparkles and magic wands because that's not what it's about and it would be too busy for me. The Serpent in Heaven doesn't follow the title character of the series, Gani Rose, it follows her sister, and I was quite taken aback that in the 4th volume we suddenly start following a different character. But I ended up really liking the ambience of being in a school for magic. I didn't think that I had missed reading something about a school for magic that much, but I just loved reading about magic lessons and magic homework, this was really nice. The plot was interesting up to a point. I'm not going to spoil you because it's the fourth volume, but there were so many plot holes in that volume. I know I've said that Charlene Harris is a competent writer, but sometimes I don't understand how an editor doesn't read that manuscript and think, okay, Charlene, there's a big problem. It was so baffling. It was just so many plot holes, so many stuff that did not make any lick of sense, and so many things of age gaps between people. And if every few pages you feel that you have to justify the age gap between your characters, maybe just don't do it. Maybe it's a bad idea. Is Just Another Story by Ernesto Saade. It's a graphic novel about his cousins that decided to immigrate to the US and use illegal immigration to do it because they didn't have a choice. When I'm writing the review, if you end up reading it, I ended up going on a rant about the fact that I do not like the graphic style of comics. I don't like the garish colors, I don't like the very thick lines that are used for everything, and I really didn't like the illustrations in that volume, and I don't know why I only talked about that on the page. If I had 2 pages to write about that book, I would have made sure to talk about the fact that it was a very interesting and important migration account. Puts in perspective what people don't have the opportunity to emigrate legally and all the hardship and violence they have to face and the resilience they have to muster. And it was very interesting, and it was so bittersweet at the end of the volume when you learn that people in the story, which are real people, still 10 years later don't have a permanent visa to stay in the US. That's just... As a recent immigrant myself, by comparison, I had such an easy time immigrating to Canada. Sure, it was stressful for me, but I was given a visa that I can use all my life, basically. And I didn't have to go through all that hardship, and it was just... I felt crummy having had such an easy time emigrating when you read such accounts. And yeah, I would recommend to read that graphic novel. It was only published this year and really is eye-opening, and I think it would be nice for younger readers to show them what immigrating can look like, and that was a tough read. And talking about tough read, the next one was super tough. This is another graphic novel. It's called Ducks, 2 Years in the Oil Sands by Kate Beaton. I ended up borrowing this one because I had learned about Kate Beaton years and years ago when she was doing her webcomic Hark Vagrant. And it's very funny that in Ducks, which is a graphic memoir, she talks about a time period where she started Hark Vagrant. So at the time that she was living those events, she was doing those comics and I was reading them. That's really weird and interesting. In Ducks, she talks about the 2 years she worked in the oil industry in Canada, and I learned a lot of stuff with that graphic novel. First of all, I loved the graphic style. I love how meticulous she was in drawing all the machinery, and I love the landscapes. I would have liked to have some colors on the page because it's not black and white, it's more blue and white, and it gives a certain atmosphere, right? But I would have loved to see the northern lights in colors and some stuff, but this was very informative. She talks about the oil boom there was in Canada and all the temporary workers that flooded to the region, that's Alberta. And she talked about places I've been to. Last year I drove with a friend from British Columbia to Quebec, so we did our Trans-Canadian road trip and we went through those places where she worked, and I didn't know there was such a history behind it. And it's a very tough thing to read because the working conditions are absolutely a nightmare, and I have to place a content warning for sexual violence. Kate Beaton is being so truthful with that account. She doesn't hesitate to show you the times that maybe some people wouldn't be proud of. She shows you all her flaws and all the stuff that happens. It's very impressive. Even if you don't agree with all of her actions, it's very humbling to see how truthful she was. doing my cover page for November, and I have space left at the bottom of the page because I think I'm going to do December here. I reused the same formula for the cover page that I did at the beginning of the video for the autumn cover page, having the book covers and the statistics. I think it works well and I think it's very cute. As I told you in the last video, I'm going to continue updating that page in my previous reading journal because I don't want to leave it half finished when I just have half of a page left, and it's really nice to have those little covers there. So I added the covers I had left. I used my label maker to have the title of the month, and I think that in the next video I will be finishing it. And here it is, this is the end of the video. In a few moments I will give you a flip through of the pages I set up in the new journal. And I really wanted to thank you for watching the videos and subscribing to the channel. Since my commonplace book video, I've had more subscribers than I have had in a long time. So this is really nice, and I really appreciate you taking the time to comment the video and to watch them. I didn't say it when I was setting up the page, but for the Serpent of Heaven review spread, I ended up using some tea stained paper as the background, and it's quite a yellow tea stained paper, but I think it went well with the green. I didn't talk about the first volume of the Tea Dragon Society comics, but I set it up off camera. Oh, I lost the footage, but I love the spread. I love the masking tape I used from Journal Say and the little stickers from a freebie that Marigona Sully sent with my order. I think the colors go really well together. I love the frames I added on those two pages because I didn't add any background. Okay, and now I finished recording the audio so I can go snowshoeing, and I'll film some clips, and they will be at the beginning of the next reading journal update, the last update of the year, and I'm very excited for that video, and I'm very excited to go snowshoeing. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.